of the spots and golden pattern that completes our Big Cat trifecta for this Big Cat Week live special is the leopard. My name is Tristan, and we can see that this leopard is sitting in the shade at the moment and is taking it very easy. It is a swelteringly hot day, and he's had probably a long night last night walking around and trying to have a territorial patrol, and he's found himself some beautiful shade in the lush green grass, and he's going to have a nice little bit of a rest until that sun gets a little lower, in which case he'll be up and then on the prowl. But it is so beautiful when we have these summer rains and the grass gets nice and green, to see that contrast of that coat against that green grass. There is few things in this world more spectacular and more beautiful than a leopard for me. It is my absolute favorite animal. I love spending every single waking minute that I can with leopards, and so to be out here this afternoon is absolutely perfect. Now, he is our dominant male leopard. He is the male that moves around in this area, constantly scent marking, and is the father to our tiny little cub that we hopefully might be able to see at some stage during the next little bit as we go through and look around for Tundi. So Tundi is a female leopard that this male has mated with, and he is the father. So we think, we don't know for 100% sure, but we think he is the father of this new little leopard cub in the area, and that's why he was on a patrol last night. He was scent marking, he was making sure that he's protecting his boundaries, because recently we've had some newcomers into the area. We've had a few young upstart males that have started to push into this section, and Tingana, who is this male leopard, is going to have to try and keep all the others at bay if he's to ensure the safety of the next generation of his offspring. So at the moment it's time to rest and to get his strength up before he can then start getting up a little bit later and moving around and continuing that scent marking, or maybe even go on the hunt. Now, from one spotted cat that is absolutely beautiful in the golden grass, all the way northwards to the Masai Mara in the beautiful grassy plains, another spotted cat. Now, unfortunately, being live out in the African bush means sometimes we get some technical difficulties, but the timing is absolutely perfect because our male leopard has just popped his head up. He's starting to yawn, and that might indicate that he might be moving. And I think he might move because he's in a little bit of sun, so he might just get up and move a little bit. You're going to see that he's limping a little bit. Unfortunately, he seems as though he's got a sore front left leg. Now, I'm not sure what's caused it. There doesn't seem to be any sign of injury on that left leg, so it could be something to do with hunting. Maybe when he was chasing an animal down, he ended up unfortunately putting his foot into a little hole that overextended, or maybe he fell out of a tree in an awkward way, or jumped out of a tree in an awkward way. But either way, he's got a bit of a sore foot. Now, that looked really bad when he took that step. It almost looked like he took a step and just collapsed down, but it's actually not the case. At the end of the day, this male leopard is just stiff and sore from sleeping most of the day. We actually saw him this morning in a very similar place to where we are now. He hasn't really moved, and so the lactic acid and the swelling has built up a little bit. Once he starts to move a bit and starts to walk, it will get much easier. And when we saw him this morning and he was walking with a lot more ease than what we saw there. He definitely is a lot stiffer this afternoon than what he was this morning. That kind of injury, though, shouldn't be too much of a problem, and you'll have a situation where he'll probably be able to walk it out. Now, Melinda, you wondering, are the animals here used to people? Well, they are what we call habituated, in that these animals have learned that the vehicles with us on them are no longer a threat in any single way whatsoever. They've seen us from when they are small little cubs, and we try and respect their space, as well as the fact that we don't try and take any food or hurt them. And so from there, they've able to work out that we are not in any way dangerous to them. We're also not food, because they're not taught to hunt us by their moms, and so therefore they are comfortable with us being around. We're almost like a tree in a way that moves around. They know that there's a bit of noise that comes from us, but they're so used to us seeing them that they've become habituated to the vehicles. Now, while we're sitting here watching our leopard do its best to crawl into the depths of the grass and hide itself away, I believe we have an eye in the sky that has spotted something very interesting. You are indeed. Well, not that you can see much of our leopard because he's hidden behind lots of green, thick grass at the moment. And you can see why he's in that thick, green, shady grass is because it is hot. And so his breathing rate is very quick as he tries to pant and cool his body down. At the end of the day, when he's panting like this, the reason he's doing that is he's trying to use water vapor being taken off of the tongue, and that cooling process then happens and cools the blood down and sends that cooler blood back into the body. So that's what he's busy trying to do. He's also trying to get out of the way of flies and various other insects that are around, and you'll see him every now and then biting into the air and trying to just swat away flies with his 4 limbs. Now, Palin, you wondering, oh, I've forgotten now, sorry, Palin, I was busy just checking at an insect that just landed on me by mistake. And sorry, there was an insect that just landed on me by mistake and I thought it might bite me. Sorry about that. But Balin, yes, they do get thorns in their feet from time to time. You'll see they'll walk along and a thorn will go in, and then you'll find that they'll pull that thorn out, and you'll find a situation where they'll lick and try and use their teeth, and eventually they get it off and then they'll walk normally again. It's actually quite amazing how efficient they are at surgically removing thorns when moving around. Now, our leopard is still sleepy. He's still swatting flies. I'm hoping he's going to get up. It's starting to get cooler, but let's go across to Noelle and see what she's managed to get up to and whether her lions have started to stir more than our leopard. Well, Steph, he's having a wonderful time sitting in the shade, and I must be honest, I'm quite envious of him because we've been sitting in a slight patch of sun, and luckily there's a bit of cloud that's come to save us, but it is quite warm in the sun, and so he is really taking it perfectly easy. You can see there's a few flies still around, tail is flicking, legs are moving, and every now and then he'll lash out with his mouth and try and bite at those flies. Of course, he's far too slow to actually get anywhere near them, and so he really struggles to be able to get to them and to be able to do anything, but at least he tries. And he tries to kind of ward them off. And the reason why they're congregating is they're trying to go to his nose and around the edges of his mouth. And the thing about it is that those flies are looking for moisture, so they're trying to get moisture that is congregating around there. With him panting, his mouth is open a little bit, and there will be a bit of saliva that will come out, and so those flies are sequestering the moisture from that saliva itself, and that's how why they're so attracted to him. It must be highly irritating to have flies going inside your nose, inside your mouth, and in your ears, and the ears for a cat are incredibly sensitive. So there you go. You see he's trying to bite them at the moment. There we go. He's always too slow, though. Unfortunately, he's a big, bulky individual in comparison to a fly, and so he's normally too late. But that motion at least pushes them away for a little bit and gives him some sort of respite when it's really kind of getting a bit too much. So he's patient for a while, and then eventually he does it, and you'll find the tail will flick, the back legs move, his front legs swat away at it, and then that head comes up as he tries to bite at those flies and get rid of them. Now, the nice thing is if there's a little bit of cloud cover coming in, I reckon we're going to see, hopefully, this male starting to move. There's not too far from us is a waterhole which often has game animals, and so while we do that, let's go all the way back to the Masai Mara, over 1,000 miles, to my friend Brent, who's got the other spotted cats that seem to still be in a massive face-off. Indeed, Brent, we are not 100% sure when he was born, but we roughly estimate him to be somewhere between 11 and 12 years old. And I'm pretty sure if Tingana was somewhere anywhere near those cheetahs, he would be in the thick of it, because Tingana does like a little scrap from time to time. So those cheetahs can be thankful that they're all the way in the Masai Mara and not down here. My name is Tristan Dec, and we are in Big Cat Week, and there's no better way to be in Big Cat Week than to be live with a male leopard. Our male leopard at the moment is really very, very tired, though. He's still having a really good nap. He's squeezed himself into the only little bit of shade that is in this area. You can see the sun is kind of glistening on the leaves all around, and so he's found himself this massive marula tree that has trunk is just going on to where he's sleeping. So he's found himself the perfect part to sleep, and once that reduces and starts to go away and the sun gets a little lower, hopefully that's going to start to get him up and awake and moving. I was alluding to the fact earlier that there is a waterhole not too far away, and on a hot afternoon like this, I would imagine a number of prey items might be going down to drink, and that might be where he heads in order to get a afternoon snack. At the end of the day, hot weather like this, and the fact that he's been moving around and scent marking this morning would mean that he's probably worked up a bit of an appetite, and maybe that's going to mean that he's going to take us on a late afternoon hunt. It's the reason why we're being patient with him and why we're waiting and hoping that he will do just that. Now, while Tingana sits and is completely relaxed, it seems as though my friend James is far more bouncy and sounds like he's messing about in the wilderness of South Africa. Well, we are still with our leopard, and we are waiting just as patiently as Noel is for it to start getting up and moving. Tingana at this stage is still very sleepy. You can see he's sprawled out and stretched out. We've changed our position slightly in the hope that he was going to move a little bit and maybe just decide to start standing up, and we're getting that light just behind him. But unfortunately, he is still in a situation where he is very sleepy. So he's taking it easy, a few flies every now and then, and we've actually been watching. It's been quite nice to watch his ears, because you can see the flies landing on the tips of his ears every now and then, and you can actually see why he flicks his ear at times. Hopefully there will be one that will land there at some point shortly. You can see them just buzzing around every now and then, and the problem is those little hairs that are just on the edge of his ear are very sensitive, and so as that fly lands, so that ear flicks, and they then chase them off, and it's because it just irritates his ear. And as you can imagine, it's like somebody sticking their finger in your ear. So, Christy, you're wondering what temperature would be most comfortable for a leopard. Well, I suppose there's no real right answer for that, because I've seen leopards moving and hunting in 120 Fahrenheit or 120 degree heat. I've seen them moving in very cold temperatures. So they're opportunistic animals. They'll take any chance they can. But generally, we find that leopards like to move around when it's a little bit grey, a little bit overcast, and when it's not too hot. So I would say anywhere between sort of 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be about the sort of temperature that leopards like to operate in, although, like I say, they can operate in any way whatsoever. That's the best thing about leopards, and why I love spending so much time with them, is that you just never know what they're going to do. They don't read books, they don't follow any rules, and each individual has its own way about them and their own character, and that's why it's such fun to follow them, because you learn so many different things by spending time amongst them. There you can see a beautiful shot of his paw. Now, Tingana is lying here resting very nicely, but I believe Taylor has a little carnivore that really does like to irritate the big cats like Tingana. But surely wake up with big yawns, and look at the teeth and the tongue on that. Isn't that amazing? Not every day that you're able to stare down the gullet of a big cat on a live safari. So it has been absolutely wonderful to see that he's now starting to wake up, and I think it's that time of the day where he's maybe going to think about moving. It's started to cool down nicely now. The wind is settling, the sun is at a low angle, and maybe, just maybe, those yawns are going to indicate that he is going to get up and start moving and going forward. He keeps looking over towards our sort of northern side at the moment, as though there is something around, but he can't quite make up his mind just yet as to where. Well, do you hear that? So it's almost like he wants to start vocalizing. Now, what would trigger that, I'm not quite sure. Is normally when they make a sound like that, it is to mark their territory, or a situation where he's seen another leopard. So I'm just looking around to see if there is another leopard here. Now, Sinak, you're wondering if leopards are the most adaptable of the big cats. Most certainly. They can live in all kinds of different places. They can be in mountains, in riverine vegetation, savannas, down even by coastlines. So they really can occupy any space, and they feed on a multitude of different prey items, probably more so than any of the other cats. So more than the cheetah that Brent and Jamie have shown you, and the lions that Noel has seen. So they are a specialized animal, and they are able to kind of thrive in any area whatsoever. Now, I was hoping he was going to vocalize for us and make a bit of noise, and to be able to make a little bit of a sound. But unfortunately, it seems as though he's going to keep quiet, and he's not going to be doing too much this afternoon. He kind of is looking in that direction. I wonder if maybe somebody else is not lurking somewhere close by. Now, while he stares off into the distance, it's unfortunately that time where we're going to unfortunately head off and finish our live safari from South Africa. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Remember, you can catch us twice daily on WildSafariLive.com, and remember to stay tuned to Nat Geo Wild for the remainder of Big Cat Week, and in particular the Savage Kingdom finale that is coming up in the next day. But from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to catching you on a safari into the future.